Hi there, I'm Matt Kinch, the founder of AdventureDesk, and you're listening to the S.M.E Stories podcast.
You are now listening to the next great small business podcast. Welcome to the S.M.E Stories podcast, where it is all about small businesses in Canada. And here's your host, Ken Alfred.
Hey everybody, thanks for on the show. We got a great episode today with Matt Kinch from AdventureDesk.com. Now a little bit about what AdventureDesk.com does actually. So they actually specialize in curated adventures, group retreats, and other experiences. Now this includes a couple of different things. Now this could be either an event, a workshop, or a training. Now some of the events that they've taken place where they've actually took people to is actually places like Vancouver, Canada, Cusco, Peru, and Utah, USA. Now, in terms of what you can do there, a lot of it could be for team building. A lot of it could be for, historical storytelling. So it's a lot of interesting things that they actually do. And some of their training workshops that they've done have been focused on crisis response and first aid and risk assessment and liability. So it's actually going to be a very interesting episode today because we're kind of going into a different realm, because usually we've had maybe travel agencies in the past, maybe that's kind of talked about this, but this is actually one that specializes where their clientele could be actual business leaders that takes their teams on all these different adventures. And they really picked a really great niche for this one. So I actually met Matt at a fitness conference here over the past year or so. If you listen to our episodes from Pete from Golf Forever and Eric from Board Games, this is the same conference where I actually met Matt as well. So it's going to be an interesting episode here. So sit back and absorb. All right, guys, we have Matt Kinch from AdventureDesk. Matt, how you doing?
Doing great. Happy to be here.
Happy to be here. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. Ready to get at it.
Yes, first recording of 2024. So it's going to be very exciting for this. So, all right. So we'll get started here, Matt. AdventureDesk.
Sounds good.
What's your story?
Yeah. So AdventureDesk is a group travel, adventure travel and retreats business. I founded it myself in April of 2022. So we're kind of entering 2024 is really what I would consider our second season in operation. And I guess we can get into how the travel business works, how that differs throughout this conversation. But it's really been a leap for me going from working in the travel industry to launching my own travel business. And it's been an exciting ride. And had the opportunity to connect with a lot of amazing people so far, and we've had some really unique trips and adventures this past year that I'm excited about, and even more coming in the year to come. But yeah, it's a different take on a travel company, mostly focused, not so much a traditional travel agency that we would normally think of, but that is certainly the legal structure of the business, but our focus is really on working with communities, groups, clubs, organizations, businesses that want to take a group of people on an adventure, have a unique experience, build community, and get people engaged.
Yeah, because it was very interesting because I think, like I mentioned to people in the intro, is that we actually met at the CanFit Pro Fitness Conference here back in the late summer, I believe.
That's right.
Of 2023. And I was just like, oh, that's interesting. Because go to fitness conferences, like I said, I used to be a trainer back in. We're used to seeing, okay, there's going to be equipment manufacturers, providers, and some product stuff like this stuff. And then I saw this thing called AdventureDesk. I'm like, huh. That's interesting. And I tell the listeners, go to your website to check it out, but it's a very unique feel, right? Because you said there's like these travel retreats, team building, all that sort of stuff. But
that's right.
How did the fitness part get into that?
A lot of it really came from the pandemic. I seen a number of different things happen during that point in time. I mean, I've worked in the travel industry for probably 17 years now. So I've seen a lot, for a business, any business in travel, the pandemic was an absolute shock. Everyone went to $0 in revenue and sales, and you had no idea when that was coming back. So it was the worst business, one of the worst businesses to be in during that time. And, I've worked in places like South America. I've lived in Peru and Ecuador. So I've been on the sales side in head offices, and I've also been on the operational and on the ground side, and seen many different ways of how a travel business is run. But when the pandemic hit, everyone that was a local service provider in travel was gone. They no longer had a job. And then I watched travel businesses eliminate all the staff they had, all of the people that had worked with them for years and years and years, and just, they just focused on the balance sheet. And I'm not trying to actually demonize them. I think a lot of businesses did what they had to do at that point in time. But then I watched them have to kind of build from the ground up as travel started opening back up. And so when I launched AdventureDesk, I really, I wanted to focus on people that had an existing community. And I think what we've seen over the course of the pandemic is that the people that continued to nurture and engage with their community were far ahead of people that were just kind of putting themselves on pause and standby until things opened back up. And so what I seen as launching AdventureDesk from zero, I quit my job and launched this business. So I was really starting on the ground floor. I was just thinking how much harder it would be to try and find individual travelers to sustain a business one by one, trying to get those people in the door, compared to if I can work with and support people that have a community. For those people that nurtured a community, they were doing things at home virtually. They wanted to get back out there. And so if I could find a handful of communities and organizations that wanted to put a trip, a retreat, or a group adventure together, that was going to be something that was much more scalable in the beginning. I didn't have to find those individuals; those communities and clients already existed within the community. So I just needed to find some people that were really good, had an existing community, were already engaging with them, and that's really become the focus for us. Is one part travel, one part community.
Oh, that's great. So let's unpack about the different places and services that your company provides, because I think people think, oh, travel. So, do they do cruises? Do they do all these different things? So unpack because yours, as I said, yours is very unique, right? It's not just I want to book a cruise, or I want to book on just a hotel airfare to go to this place. So unpack that a little bit so listeners can really understand the difference.
Yeah, I mean, working in travel so long, I make the mistake of thinking that everyone knows what I know and is in the industry that I'm in. So I appreciate the question. Because I think I should start with a lot of the things we don't do. We don't often arrange flights for people. We're not arranging all-inclusive vacations or cruises or things like that. We're trying to develop and put together an experience that is unique for the community. Generally, it's going to have an adventure element of it. I really think when you're building a retreat or a group adventure or community, the thing that brings people together is doing difficult things, stepping out of your comfort zone, trying something new. And so that's really, the travel is the tool to engage the community. And so we focus a lot on curating and putting together custom group tours. So generally our trips would be a week in length, kind of from one weekend to the following weekend, which could be 7 to 8 days usually. And we build the program around the community's interests. So we work with a lot of fitness professionals and fitness communities where, the adventure trip is an engagement piece, a reason for working out in the gym week after week after week, something to train towards, something that the coaches can help prepare their clients for, and it's something that they can do once or twice a year that can be really fun outside of the gym. I really believe, and I think we all know that in the wellness space, is that people aren't people don't want to live in the gym. They don't want to spend hours and hours doing that. There's a reason why they're doing that. It could be mobility. They want to be healthy. They want to be able to do cool things like hike mountains and raft rivers and go skiing or golfing and all of these kind of things. So we really try and create programs around the audience.
Yeah. And so is there a minimum group size? Could a couple engage you, or does it make sense to have like a certain number of people say, hey, we're going to do this whole big adventure thing? Because I know my wife, for example, Mrs. K, she's all into stuff like that. We're doing adventure stuff. Like I think before we actually settled down to have kids, her and her two sisters, they did a big trekking expedition in Nepal. Right. And my brother-in-law and I did not go to this because we did not want to expedite our divorce. Because we're more of the leisure, let's relax, whatever. Yeah, we'll hit the gym once in like an hour, whatever. But I know our wives are very much like that. Go, 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 let's go. Because one of the trips, and I'll make this story quick, is that so during this whole trek, I can't remember how long it was, but it was like a week or something like that long. If they said to get from point A to point B, and there's like all the way to point E or something like that for this entire trip. So for point A to point B, they usually get in, let's say, about 4 hours to get from point A to point B. She'll be like, let's all go for 3 hours and 50 minutes. So she'll be like that motivating force to try and drive the rest of the hikers to get to there. And they had like Sherpas to help them and stuff like that. But and I joke with her like, you know what? You might be if this was the military, you might be a victim of friendly fire. If that was the case for that. But aside from that, so when it comes to this, so like I said, it's a very unique experience that you guys offer, right? So how big is your team right now? Is it just you? Do you have a few people that are helping you out get this thing going? Well, you've been going for almost 2 years, so I'm sure there's more to it than that.
Yeah, so a lot of it is me. But I mean, if you look at the travel industry, there's many levels of it. So you frequently have the operator or the provider that's selling the trip, and oftentimes then there's also a local provider or a series of local providers that are delivering the trip. And so there's a lot of travel companies out there that do group travel, and oftentimes they are not the ones that own or operate the local business on the ground. There would be a local provider or a local operator doing that. And so generally what we are doing is partnering with our network of local providers and partners. Again, working 17 some years in the industry, the network is probably our largest strength. And so that allows me to be able to run multiple trips at a time and not get bogged down and not have to worry about scaling or investing at the local level. And so our partners are really an extension of our business, running the trips and getting to know our clients. So that allows me to focus on the building and the sourcing of those things, and then having local providers.
So the rates then that people who engage your company, AdventureDesk, then, so does that fee also include that? Because you said you have that local network of operators that'll run it. So they're not having to, they're going to pay you a fee, and then when they get to the site, they have to pay another fee. Is it just like a one fee kind of service kind of?
That's right.
Oh, that's convenient. So convenient.
Yeah. So we, typically in the travel industry, you have a travel agent who books with maybe a North American tour operator who then is contracting a local operator who also might be subcontracting other pieces of it. So, and everyone's got to make money along the way. And so what we try and do is go from, we work directly with our client and directly with the local operators. And so it's like a wholesale setup, basically, is we're able to get wholesale rates and pass those group rates on to our clients. And so our focus is absolutely group travel. There's a lot more flexibility you have with group travel. And again, it's much more profitable than just doing one and two people. We absolutely do trips for couples and individuals. I guess the way I explain it to people is we are not trying to compete with the very large travel companies to get individuals. That's a lot of work. I don't think there's so much competition there, and it's part of the reason when you and I met at CanFit Pro, I don't want to go to the travel conferences and trade shows and be one more travel company. I want to work with fitness communities, wellness communities, and people that want to take their community on a retreat or an adventure. And so, to me, I'd rather be in a wellness conference than a travel conference.
Oh, okay, yeah, because you don't see very many travel agencies in a fitness conference, right? Like I said,
That's right.
most people are expecting to see, like I said, the products or the wellness services and stuff like that. So it was actually very interesting. That's what engaged me to say, okay, I want to talk to this company a little bit more and see what they're all about. And I think that's pretty cool. So, okay, so you said right now you're kind of like a solopreneur-ish. You have obviously with the relationship stuff like that. So, what type of growth are you looking to see this coming year?
Well, being a startup, I mean, anything less than double the size of our business the previous year won't be acceptable. But yeah, I mean, in the travel industry, one of the things you learn right away is that you don't have profit or you don't make any money until the trip actually happens. So you imagine how far in advance you're booking your vacation. We have people booking trips with us now for end of 2024 and now looking into 2025. So in many cases, my 2024, the majority of that is already baked. It's already, trips are arranged, trips are sold. It would be great to get a handful of groups, but my sense is most of the potential clients coming in January and February, be lucky to get them in at the end of 2024. Most likely, we're starting planning for 2025. And so, when you start in year one, what year one really means is zero revenue. And it's all planning until those first trips start happening. And so, so 2023, that's why I say, year two of our business is really our first season of everyone on the ground traveling and doing our trips. And now we're entering into our second season of travel, which again, it'll be double the size of our previous year, which is fantastic. And our focus with communities is not just one-off trips. What we really want to be is an extension of their organization, and we want repeat business where they're planning trips this year and then asking us where are we going next year, and we're kind of doing that.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So what's the plan for expansion though, right? Because you said you're in almost year two pretty much. And you said you already got past the initial season and stuff like that. And you're already, I mean, it's a great problem to have that you're already booked to the point that, okay, it's hard to get in for 2024, or maybe just really right at the tail end of 2024. That now you're so much in demand that you actually have to start booking till 2025. So, I mean, where do you plan on seeing where AdventureDesk is going to be in the next 5 years? Are you looking to expand to more locations, or do you have like a physical office, or do you want to, is it maybe a certain number, build your team a certain number where you're more just managing the business and more managing the clients, and your teammates will be the one that'll be booking and plan the trips? Like, what do you see yourself doing?
Yeah, so the way we look at it, we want to be a boutique agency that is really dealing with partners. Not just individual clients. We look at every community as a partner. Every one of our group community trips that happened in the past year, every single client is repeating again this year. We have clients that went from 2 trips last year to 4 trips this year, trying to increase the number of times that they're traveling with their groups and communities. So to have 100% repeat rate every year is pretty good, and so that's really what we're going to be focusing on, and then finding the right additional community partners for us. So we're probably with about 6 or 7 different groups and communities right now. And so the short-term goal in the next couple of years is to be up around 30 different communities. That puts us in a unique place to be a little bit more strategic in how we grow and expand. Do we kind of just stick with those and just onboard a few new clients a year? Or do we double down and try and expand across different regions and niches? But yeah, we have, we're in a great spot. I'm trying to be patient with this because there is a lot of opportunity there. But we also need to make sure these trips go fantastic so that, that referral and the repeats keep on happening.
Well, yeah, I mean, because I know we get to the tips in the pro segments, especially someone who wants to maybe start in something similar to what you're offering. They might just be like, okay, we'll just do the exact blueprint that Matt does, and then it'll be easy peasy, right? But I'm like,
Yeah.
no, because you have the advantage of, like you said, you already have some of those local relationships that you can use that, right? So it's not going to be as simple as saying, oh, okay, just the blueprint is there, right? There's a little bit more steps to it. So then for my next question then is then, so what, I forgot to ask this before, is what regions do you currently offer your adventures, and where do you plan on expanding those regions?
Yeah. So I would say our most popular destination over the last 2 or 3 years has been Costa Rica. It's the,
I'd love to go there.
It's absolutely amazing. Being a North American business, there's lots of direct flights into Costa Rica. For communities, especially if it's a community that isn't used to traveling and their clients aren't used to traveling, anyone who has never traveled before and wants to do something a little bit different than, Cancun and the Mayan Riviera and all inclusives, Costa Rica is a great place to start. Because it's developed enough that, even not speaking Spanish, you're going to get by really well. The level of service is amazing. The people are amazing, the activities and accommodation. So it's always, for that person that's, wants to be a little bit more adventurous in their holiday and hasn't done so, I start with Costa Rica. And people love it, absolutely love it. And so it's growing and growing in popularity, and it's there for a reason. We had a handful of clients over the Christmas holidays there, and just raving about it. So can't go wrong with Costa Rica. We do a lot of South America, mostly just because I lived and worked there for so long. So we've had programs in Peru to see Machu Picchu, Costa Rica. We did a West Coast surfing retreat in Oregon over the summer. Had groups in Spain and Portugal, Egypt, and we have people going to Tanzania for hiking Mount Kilimanjaro and doing safaris. The good thing about the network is, I definitely have partners and contacts almost globally. So we're not really limited on the where. It's more about the communities themselves and where they want to go. But it's always great to add new and unique destinations, and there's a lot of fun stuff that we can do.
Oh yeah, like you got to update your website there, Matt, because I was looking at it, and it, like, I think for some of the common locations they said, Vancouver, Canada, then you said Peru, and Utah, like in Utah in the States. So I'm like, all those other places, add that to your thing, man, because if people think, they might just look at it, okay, so we only have 3 options we can go. But I'm like, when you said Spain, Oregon, all these different things, Tanzania, I'm like, Costa, really? I didn't know that. So man, that's great, because you've gone all over the place. So it's not that you're saying, we're only like a one location kind of career. We actually have, tentacles that reach in all these different areas as well. So that's really good. So next question we have here is in terms of expenses though, right? So you're building this thing off the ground, and you're currently operating it right now. What do you find is your biggest expense that you're kind of running AdventureDesk.com?
It's, because of the pandemic, I was able to start this business from my home. So our overhead expenses are next to nothing. If I really think of what is the most expensive thing about running this business, it would be, the lost opportunities of just getting a job. and because I had a great career. I worked in the travel industry. I was a general manager of a company before I quit my job and did this. So the goal has really been to try and get back to where I was, in salary wise in where I was just working. And I think that's a pretty common thing for people starting a business, is they just, it's been a sacrifice to just get back up to where you were. You get humbled. You have to kind of deal with that. Yeah. And so what I have to remind myself is, like, 10 years ago, Matt would have dreamed to be in this place. And, and when I started it, when I started the business, I far exceeded what my expectations were. But, you got to keep moving. You got to keep on leveling up and going forward. So, to answer your question, there isn't a whole lot of massive expenses with something like this. You're really the legal part of getting a lawyer to incorporate, and with the travel industry, there is some regulation specifically in our province of Ontario that you need to jump through some hoops and pay into a travel, basically a government regulated body for travel. Yeah. And so that's the biggest expense. And that's really what it's almost a reason why we don't see more businesses like this and more travel startups, because, right away to start this business, I have to put a $10,000 deposit in a trust account for 2 years. And so that's before I pay a lawyer. That's before I incorporate. So right off the bat, there's something like $15,000 in startup costs, without even thinking of website, without even thinking of anything else like that.
And
yeah,
ads and stuff like that, right? And then
yeah.
The funny thing is also too, because you were at a trade show, I remember I used to work at that company for the fitness certification, that, the trade show sales was kind of like what they did. I didn't do that actually.
Mm-hmm. Right.
To have your own booth to help market your company, that is another expense you have to do. Now, I don't know if you're going to go back again this coming year in 2024, but that is another expense that, if you're thinking of following in Matt's footsteps, that's something you have to consider, right?
Yeah. That was absolutely our most expensive marketing budget item for the year, and it's a couple $1,000, but there's a lot that you can do sitting on your phone or on your computer here at home. With I use LinkedIn a lot, Instagram, social media. All of our first clients were people that I never knew, and I had connected with through social media, and they eventually took a chance on me. So. Trying not to spend too much money on things that don't deliver is almost as important as anything else. But when you really look at the business at the end of the year and the balance sheet, about 70 to 75% of revenue goes to the cost of the trip, and then the other whether varies from 10-15% up to maybe 30% max. So a lot of what comes in is going straight to the travel providers to deliver these trips.
Yeah, and look at that. You answered almost all my questions just from the tips from the pro segment here, right? Like, because I was going to be asking something about that, and you're already kind of like touching upon it, right? So, and you even answered almost a bit my social media piece, because I was saying, so how important is social media? Now, you said the initial few clients you got was from social media, right?
That's right.
Think, your social media profiles right now, like I think I've seen you on Instagram, LinkedIn as well. So where do you kind of focus your energy? Which social media platforms do you find? And then also too, I think you also have your own, travel show as well, or something on YouTube, correct?
I think I started that travel show right in, if you look in the dates, about January 2020. So kind of thinking optimistically, what a great time to build this travel community and travel show. And it was kind of a side hustle for me to play with. And then COVID hit, and it was time to put away our side hustles. We needed to fix the business. So I had stopped it. But so Instagram and LinkedIn are probably the two most important mediums for me. Every client that we've developed a relationship or partnership with has come from a cold DM, a cold email, or a cold message on LinkedIn. So, really trying to figure out who our ideal customer is. Try and, we're not just looking at random people. We're looking at who has a community. What are the communities out there? It could be a fitness community, a club, organizations. And so really spending some time in prospecting and seeing, does this person seem like someone that would benefit from what we're doing? And in many cases, we are reaching out to them and suggesting, like, hey, have you ever thought of doing retreats? Like you're doing day hikes in Vancouver and Vancouver Island, or or in the Toronto area. We see you're doing daily hikes and yoga classes and stuff like that. Have you ever thought of doing a trip? And many people have thought of doing a trip and just aren't sure the best way to go about it. So that's been our focus more so than here, buy this trip that we do or this kind of thing. Is, have you ever thought of organizing your community and putting an amazing experience together?
Interesting. Yeah. That's very interesting to hear. So let's talk about the industry itself. We kind of touched upon it. So what is your current opinion of the travel industry now, and where do you think it's kind of going?
Well, travel is absolutely back. I mean, sometimes in our own little community bubbles, it doesn't seem like that. We still feel a little bit of hesitancy from our neighbors and people in general. But go to an airport, go to any travel destination, and you see that it is absolutely back, and the demand is there. So most large travel organizations are back to 2019 numbers. Many destinations exceeding 2019 numbers, and so provided we don't go to war and planes don't get grounded for whatever reason again. There's no reason that 2024 won't be the biggest year on travel, and it continues to trend that way. So some of the things that concern me or have me thinking the most is just the last thing I want to do is run a trip or retreat and introduce people into a totally crowded place where it just is full of tourists, and they don't get the solitude or the kind of environment that they're seeking by running a group adventure or retreat. Nobody wants to be in huge, large crowds, and
waiting in line and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. And so that's another reason we shy away from, the large cruises and all inclusives. It's just, that's not what we're looking for. We're trying to the community part of these trips that we do is really important. And so if it's just you're surrounded by tons of other people, you just don't get that same experience. So really trying to find those places and times of year and types of trips that people are going to feel like they're exploring and that they're not waiting in line.
Well, yeah, that's very interesting to what you're talking about, right? Because I think we're going to hit the tips from the pro, and we're going to talk about that in a second too. So, so in terms of what are the common, I guess, in terms of the industry, because you said you're in the travel industry, are there any misconceptions when you approach someone and they mistake, do they mistake that, oh, you're just another travel agency? Do you find, what are the other misconceptions you kind of see when you're talking to people?
Yeah, I mean, definitely if we're a travel agency, but I never tell anyone we're a travel agency. I mean, that's legally what we have to be where we're based. But I really say that we're a travel organization that supports communities. And because I think people have that idea of the corner travel agent who is now obsolete, right? And what we've seen over the pandemic is that there's a huge percentage, I don't know the exact amount, but a huge percentage of travel agents left the industry. And, nobody was ever in travel to make money. But when all those jobs were taken away, their skills and their abilities were in demand in other industries. And so it wasn't so difficult to find another great, well-paying job. And so a lot of people just didn't come back when travel came back. And that's certainly true for a lot of people in my network. So that was the opportunity when I was thinking about it, is there's going to be more demand than there is supply. I'm definitely going to be able to get a piece of that. And then I just have to do a great job and continue doing it. So I really, hate it when friends or family members come and ask me about an all-inclusive or a cruise or something like that. I'll do that for select friends, family, partners, but in general, that's not what we want to do. So we do just, it's hard to make people aware of that because they just feel like all travel is created equal.
Same, yeah, it's the cookie cutter approach, right? And
that's right.
And which unfortunately it's not, because especially I think a lot of people now are looking for customized type of excursions, right? I mean, for me, I'm a simple guy. I just like, oh, okay, just I'm good with all inclusive as long as I get to lay out and just as long as the resort has a beach, a gym, I'm good. But I know that won't cut it for my wife, or that won't
Right.
cut it for certain family members where they're like, no, we got to explore. Now, we came back from a recent trip from Hong Kong and Japan, right, to visit my in-laws, and then we all went to Japan for, I think, almost 2 weeks, which was really great. But it was very much go, go, go. And unfortunately, as much as I love Mrs. K, I think she forgets who she married. Because I'm okay doing the excursion every so often, but you need to build in a little bit of time where if I just want to just relax and just veg for a day, I'm okay with that, right?
Yeah.
But it was like when you try to cram too many things in one trip, I think that's the one thing you have to think about. So, but I'm going to get to that in a second there. So, last question on the industry here. So, what has been your biggest failure, but also your biggest success so far with Adventure Desk?
Yeah. So, I would say that starting a business, I wasn't great at the forward planning and kind of projections, right? I really kind of came in this very naive, which is what I think a lot of people do, right? Like I thought it was a matter of months before revenue started coming in, and so that's why I got started in it. As I mentioned before, it was a year before any kind of serious opportunities and revenue were coming in. I didn't have a great plan on how to get clients, and how I was going to go about that, which I think oftentimes if people have worked on like the product side or the experience side, is how do you get the phone to ring, right? And you have to have a really great plan around that. So very quickly you start to realize those things. I mean, I don't know about failures, so much as I quickly realized a lot of things that I thought I was good at that I wasn't good at. And this happens to a lot of us, I think, who have worked for a company and teams, right? Like you like to think you have the ideas and the concepts, which is great, but you need someone that knows how to put those things into action, that knows how to execute those things. And so while I might think that I was pretty good at marketing and social and digital stuff, I was only good at the conceptual idea phase. And once it had to get put into action, I realized, oh, I'm not that good at this. And there's a lot of things like that you quickly realize that you're not that good at. And so get a renewed appreciation for people that do know how to execute those things. And so that's been a great learning for me. And so you just have to keep on failing at those things and work on getting better at them. But I mean, the success is just sticking with it, continuing to reach out to people, and have, it's so great when you finally have someone that replies and has a meeting with you or puts something into action. It's incredibly rewarding. And so yeah, I'd say that just, powering through that initial, those initial setbacks or those things that you're not so great at, has been some of the, at least feels like the most successful things.
Yeah, no, I think just to echo your sentiments, right? Because I think from some of the listeners who've listened to my show, sometimes they know there was a bit of a gap between my episodes was because I was in the middle of trying to figure out finding an editor because I used to do a lot of things myself. And it's that whole juggling many balls that are in the air because, like you said, when I started the whole podcast thing, I was like, okay, I'll do it all myself. And, all these different softwares can do all this stuff for you. But at the end of the day, you still had to edit them. You still had to do the social media piece. And I realized I am not good at that stuff. Yeah, there's a software that maybe can do some of it, but you still have to spend the time for it. And remember,
that's right.
I still have to, I think we can both relate is that it's not just we're the business owner, we're also husband, father, and friend to people, right? So if we want to dedicate our entire 24/7 day on the business, yeah, we could. Do we want to do that? No, right?
Yeah.
Because we have to balance that out. And I think we're going to ask you that balancing question as well. So where can people reach out to you, Matt?
Yeah, so you can find us at AdventureDesk.com. all one word. And I don't know if you're going to link up my Instagram and LinkedIn. And those are the places to find us. Matt at AdventureDesk.com if you ever want to get in touch with me directly, and love to chat. If there's anyone out there that has a community or thinks they would benefit from a community adventure or retreat, we'd love to talk.
Awesome, Matt. Thank you for being on the show. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Ken. Thanks for having me.
Hey, do you need an error-free website? Do you need transcription that's accurate and on time? Would you like to remove noise from your video or audio recording? Do you need a spokesperson for your business? If so, we can help. At Northway Capital Group, we are happy to announce that we are now providing website testing services, audio transcriptions, and audio cleanup, as well as spokesperson services. We would love to help you on your next project. Contact us for more information at northwaycapitalgroup@gmail.com.
Thank you for listening to the S.M.E Stories podcast, which is owned by Northway Capital Group. Please follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Northway Capital Group.